The New Old Japan. "Are you sure you are comfortable here?" I asked doubtfully. My guest had recently arrived in Tokyo after a 14-hour flight and several more hours of travel into the city. And as one who has taken the same trip many times, I knew that jet lag and general weariness could be more than a bit overwhelming. I wondered whether he might enjoy a quieter environment or softer seats than the small red stools upon which we were perched. But my guest was in fine spirits. "There is nowhere I'd rather be right now," he said, gesturing at the lively crowd of fellow diners huddled around the small counter of the yatai. "Every time I come to Tokyo, I make a point to stop at places like this before I do anything else." My guest's sense of comfort and delight amid old yatai and yokocho is one shared by many visitors to Japan, who simultaneously feel at home and as if they are truly in a faraway country when they experience such places. Although many of them may not be aware of it, they are among the growing number of foreign aficionados of what might be called Showa style, a distinctive aesthetic embodied by the architecture, design, cuisine, and general ambiance associated with the second half of the 20th century in Japan. True, when most foreigners think of old Japan, the familiar images of samurai, geisha, and woodblock prints are usually the first things to come to mind. But slowly and steadily, quiet appreciation for Showa style is on the rise. Honoring yesterday's tomorrow. One of the most beautiful and enduring expressions of Showa style in Tokyo is the Hotel Okura, which opened its doors in 1962. Decorated in a way that must have seemed futuristic at the time, today Hotel Okura is redolent of a vanished era. Consistently the hotel of choice for U.S. presidents visiting Japan, its unique style also makes it beloved by foreigners from nations around the world. "The furniture, lights, and carpets remind me a bit of my home when I was a little girl in the 1960s and 70s, said one woman from Canada, who was admiring the lobby and agreed to speak with me briefly. "At the same time, it is unquestionably Japanese. This mixture is why it is beautiful to me. Also, it's so clean and well preserved. It's possible to find furniture like this back home, but rarely in such good condition." A friend of mine who came to visit Japan last year specifically asked to visit this hotel, even though he wasn't staying there, for much the same reason, having heard about it through word of mouth. The addition of a Japanese twist to a familiar and nostalgic atmosphere creates a strangely mysterious feeling for many visitors from overseas. This subtle mixture of the unknown and the deeply familiar might be behind the allure that Showa style holds for some foreigners. I really enjoy places like old wood-paneled coffee shops and bars in Japan, even if they are a little more expensive, and even if the chairs and tables are a little old, said a man from the U.S. who has been living in Japan for several years. I don't mind paying extra to support them, because I feel like they are part of a vanishing world, and one I'd like to keep around. For him, the familiarity of the old, which reminded him of something in his past back home, was much a part of the attraction as the Japaneseness. Many younger foreigners are also drawn to Showa style, although perhaps for slightly different reasons. "When I travel, I want to see something that is only possible to see in that particular place," an Australian man in his 20s explained to me. As the world becomes smaller, could it be that small differences come to seem bigger? "This style was popular before I was born, so I can't say I'm particularly nostalgic about it," he went on. "Rather, I'm drawn to it because I've never seen a place like this before." He was talking about Nakano Broadway, a Warren-like collection of tiny shops just west of Tokyo's Shinjuku district. A number of these stores specialize in Japanese toys, games, and collectibles from the 1950s through the 1980s, making it a magnet for both foreign and Japanese pop culture lovers and fans of Showa style. The domestic view. Showa style is also popular among many Japanese people, although the appeal is more straightforwardly nostalgic. When I was a child, there were so many places like this, and we took them for granted, a Japanese man in his mid-50s told me, as we strolled through the tiny, crowded streets of Kichijoji's Harmonica Yokocho district of shops, bars, and restaurants. I never thought there was anything particularly striking or special about this kind of place. If anything, maybe I thought it was a little grubby. But now that everything is becoming so clean and modern, it seems like a precious slice of my childhood. Some longtime foreign residents of Japan expressed similar feelings. When I first came here in 1982, I didn't think much of this style, said a long-term French resident. But after so many years here, it feels like home to me too. Looking back, looking ahead. Japan is in the midst of a major drive to promote tourism, and the numbers show it is working. In 2013, over 10 million overseas visitors came to Japan, setting a new record, and I feel confident that this figure can only grow as we approach the 2020 Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games. Of course, the majority of visitors will spend their time at impressive, well-known tourist draws, like famous shrines or temples and sleek, ultra-modern shopping centers. But given the delight and curiosity that I've seen foreigners express when they confront Showa style, I personally believe it can serve as a point of attraction for visitors, especially those looking for something off the beaten path. This idea may be worth pondering in places in which Showa style is still abundant and mostly taken for granted by local residents. When the future seems uncertain and when change becomes the norm, there is great comfort in nostalgia, and this is true for people of every culture. But the simple pleasures people take in Showa style and other forms of reminiscence about the good old days is more than just comforting. It is an important reminder that we should always be aware of where we have been in the past, as well as where we are headed for the future.